So what you're gonna do to get your sheet ready for the first part of this project is you're going to take your paper, a pencil, and a ruler or a straight edge, and you're gonna first make a line directly in the middle, or as close to the middle as you can get. You don't have to do any measuring, so I'm aware that it will probably not be perfectly in the middle, and that's totally okay. We just want it as close as we can get it by eye. And then you are going to take your ruler and you're going to separate in thirds this way. So we want two lines about here and here to separate it into 1, 2, 3 sections going vertically. All right, just like that. Not perfect. Now we're going to label. So there are 7 elements of art. One of them will be on the back. The one on the back is going to be space, S-P-A-C-E. Oops, that was 2 sheets of paper. And then the ones on the front are going to be line, L-I-N-E, shape, S-H-A-P-E, color, C-O-L-O-R, line, shape, color, value, V-A-L-U-E, form, F-O-R-M, texture, T-E-X-T-U-R-E, texture. All right, so for the line section, what I want you to do is try and use a variety of materials. So like, for instance, crayon, marker, and colored pencils for various lines. Try to use a variety of colors, just so you can warm up a little bit and get back in the swing of things for this drawing unit. Now, if you really cannot stand crayons or something like that, then I understand. Just work with the material that works best for you then. Alright, so for lines, just as a little review, what a line is it is simply connecting 2 points. So, for example, we have point A over here and point B over here. I'll even label them. A, B. Now these are our 2 points. So it does not matter how we connect these 2 points, but if we connect them, that is what makes a line. So for example, here is how I'm choosing to connect it. We took a lot of twists and turns, but we eventually got to point B. And there is line number 1. Alright, so for line number 2, some bumps. Totally different type of line. And to wrap it all up, let's see, how about really close together zigzags. Ooh, this one kind of looks like grass. Very appropriate that it's at the bottom of the page. Now remember, just because I gave you all of these lovely examples does not mean you need to make your lines look anything like my lines. I want you to be creative and come up with your very own set of lines. But that is it for that section. Moving on, we got the section right next to it labeled shape. Alright, so for the shape section, what I want us to do, first of all, I'm going to review what a shape is. You all probably know, but I'll just review. So you start with a line. A line is what builds a shape. The only difference between a line and a shape is instead of having point A and point B at separate locations, point A and point B are going to be at the same spot. So you're going to start at a point, you're going to create a line, and then point B is going to come and meet up with point A, making it an enclosed area of space. So that is the difference. A line is just point A to point B. And if you look very closely, this almost looks like a line, or it almost looks like a shape, but because it's not completely closed up right here, that makes it just a line. So by doing this and closing it up, now we have a shape. Now these first two shapes that I drew, those are called free shapes. So free shapes mean these shapes don't have names of their own. I just kind of made them up. So if I were to draw a shape that does have a name, it might be like a circle, where we know what the circle is, already has a name, or maybe a square. Okay, so for this section, what I want you to do is come up with free shapes as well as shapes with names, geometric shapes, and just kind of create a design with 6 different shapes, and you can have them separate or you can overlap them like I did. I kind of think the moving on to color. So for this section, I don't really care how you display the order of the rainbow on here, but what I want you to demonstrate in this section is that you understand the concept of Roy G. Biv. So if you are not familiar with Roy G. Biv, it's actually an acronym. So each part stands for something. Here, I'll grab another paper and I'll just write it out. So we have Roy, G. Biv. Alright, we need to zoom out a little bit. Alright, now you can see it. So I wrote it down this way so I can show you what each letter stands for. So we have R for red, O for orange, Y for yellow, G for green. Oops, I didn't need 2 G's in there, silly me. For green, B for blue, I for indigo, and V for violet. Alright, so one thing is I don't need you to really include indigo in this order. The only reason indigo is a part of Roy G. Biv is just to remind us that the tertiary colors are still there. However, we're not going to include all the tertiary colors in our color wheel or rainbow or however you choose to demonstrate this because they're not really important for this activity. So all you need to do is demonstrate in some way the order red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So I'll just show you a few ways to kind of get the ball rolling. Purple. Okay, so those are 3 examples, but of course the possibilities again are endless. You could do a series of lines and color the colors in between the lines. you could just make 6 circles, and in the right order, color in the circles. You can make squares, you can make really anything. So don't limit yourself to remember Roy G. Biv. So for value, what I want you to do is split the section into 5 parts. And for this part of the activity, I want you to just use a pencil. And actually, even though I prefer mechanical pencils, the wooden pencil is going to be a little bit better for the value activity. So we're going to make fifths. And maybe you want to draw a line across the top so you don't color into your value label. So there's okay. So for the first section, all I want you to do, this table has a little bit of texture on it, so forgive me if this is not as smooth as I might like it. Anyways, for the section that is closest to the right, you're going to color it in as dark as you possibly can. And then the section on the farthest to the left, you're actually going to leave completely white. So this one's already done automatically. Boom, that was quick. So now we only have these 3 left to do. So I'm actually going to jump into the middle one. I know it's kind of crazy, we're going all over the place, but I'm going to go to this middle one and I'm going to color it in with just a nice medium toned gray. So I'm not going to go as hard as I was over here, and I'm not going to leave it blank, but it's going to be somewhere right in the happy middle. Now let's try to make the lighter one first. So you're going to want to make a tone that's kind of right in between this shade of gray and this white. So you're just going to want to draw very lightly, and you're just making a nice light gray. Just like that. And it's all just practice, so you really don't have to worry too much about how it looks. I kind of went outside the lines, and that's okay. This is just kind of a resource. It'll be very helpful in future drawings to look at this grayscale. Oh yeah, by the way, this is called a grayscale, if anyone was curious. I'm sure some of you have heard of them before. But a grayscale, it just showcases a variety of values. And forgive me, I forgot to really talk about values. Silly me, we're already on the value section. I didn't even talk about it. Value refers to the lightness, light, or darkness of a color, or in this case just a shade. So the lightness and darkness of black, essentially, because we're using a pencil. Yeah, and value is very big in art because it tells us a lot. It tells us what objects are further forward in a drawing and which are further back. It also tells us where the light is coming from. So objects that are in the light are going to be lighter, some of these values, and objects that are in shadow are going to be on the darker side of values. Now, moving on to the section in between the middle gray and the black, I am going to attempt to draw a gray that is in between the black and the middle gray. There we have our value scale going dark, moving to the light. How cool. I probably could have made this gray a little bit lighter, probably could have differentiated them a little bit better, but I think it looks pretty good. So, as we move on, we are now going to talk about form. So, form really is just, it's a lot like shape. However, the difference is form has a sense of depth, and it is 3-dimensional looking versus 2-dimensional looking. Shapes kind of look 2-dimensional, and forms look 3-dimensional. So I am going to quickly show you what I mean by that. So let's take a shape. We have a circle here, right? And it looks flat. It looks like it's on a piece of paper. But let's take that same shape, and now we're going to turn it into a form by giving it value to make it look three-dimensional. So I'm just going to start adding some value around the edge here. And we're going to pretend the light is hitting it right here. So I'm going to lightly kind of start to add some pigment around there. And it's getting darker around this edge because that part of the sphere is underneath the part that is hitting the light the most, so it's kind of in the shadow underneath itself. The sphere itself is what is causing the shadow because it goes down and around right here. So there we go. And that is form. It's all about tricking the eye into thinking this that is on a two-dimensional surface is actually 3D, and we could reach in and grab it, if that makes sense. So just by changing, just by giving the shape some values, it becomes a whole new shape, and in fact it becomes a form. So this is a form. It is 3D, and its name is sphere. Yeah, I spelled that right. Alright, and while over here, this is a shape. It is two-dimensional, 2D, and its name is circle. Pretty cool, huh? So for this section, all I want you to do is I want you to try and make 3 different shapes look like 3D forms. So I want you to try to make 3 forms. And now this can kind of be difficult for some of you, I'm sure. It's kind of hard to imagine things in 3D, especially when you're working on a 2D surface. So I will do a few more examples. And you can just follow along if that is easier for you. Otherwise, if you're confident, you can just go for it, try your own forms. But I'm just going to just try and show you what I mean if you're a little lost. So here I have a triangle. That is a shape. It is 2D. Name is triangle. And I'm going to make it a 3D form, and I'm going to make a cone. So the difference is, well, there's a lot of difference, but instead of making the line on the bottom flat like this, it's actually going to be rounded like this, because it is coming out in space. It is 3D. Alright, and then of course we need the essential ingredient, value, and I need to sharpen my pencil quick, 1 second. Sharp, sharp, sharp. Oh yeah, and if you don't have a little pencil sharpener like this, I highly recommend you get one. I hope that everyone is able to get a hold of one of these, or maybe even a nicer one if you have that, but they're pretty cheap, 50 cents tops. So that would be awesome if you could get one of those. Alright, and then we're going to start to add value. Alright, and it's getting lighter. Let's just say the light is hitting it right there. So you have to remember, the way the light hits it is kind of going to have to go with the shape too. So you could see in the circle, the light, I'm going to ruin this form just to like show you, but the light is hitting it right here, and the light is actually kind of in a circular shape. Here, the light is hitting it there, and the light is even hitting it kind of with its own shape as a cone. So there we have a form, 3D, her name is cone, versus a shape, 2D, and her name is triangle. So let's do one more. Let's do a square to a cube. So this one is a little bit more, there's a little bit more to it than just adding value. But here we have a shape. His name is square. Into a 3D box or cube. The technical term is cube. What you need to do is you make the square, okay? And then you're going to draw diagonal lines, kind of all going at the same angle, going back like that. And then you're going to just connect those diagonal lines. There, now we have a cube. And of course, adding shading is always going to make it have a little bit more life. So I did the top a little bit dark. So now we're assuming that the light is kind of coming in from the bottom. So the side is going to be a little bit lighter, maybe getting lighter as it goes down. Okay, and the front, I would say, is going to be the lightest. The light is hitting it right here. And there is Mr. Cube. Alright, textures. Alright, so for this section, we're just going to create 3 different sections. So I am going to draw a line right under the texture label, just so it doesn't interfere. And then looks like my ruler width is about 1/3 of this space, so I'm just going to put a line above and below my ruler. And there we have 3 sections. Remember, they don't have to look perfect, just get 3 different sections within this one texture section. So what texture is it's what you would imagine a surface would actually physically feel like if you were to touch it. But what I want you to do in these 3 sections is I want you to make 3 distinctly different textures with any drawing materials that you would like. So voila! We have our 3 distinctly different textures. So space. Now, like we did before, we labeled the backside space. And that is because space refers to the entire area that is occupied by the art. Now, this includes both positive and negative space. So what I mean by that is the positive space is the part that you draw. So here I'm just going to draw an apple quick. A little stem, little leaf. So there's my apple. Now this is the positive space, the part inside the apple. However, the part outside the apple, all of this extra paper that I have not drawn on, that is also part of the artwork because this would not exist without the outside area. Now I'm going to show you an example that will make this make a little bit more sense. And you can see this if you go to the Word document that is linked with this project. So if you look at this drawing, the artist had used, they created positive space by drawing a woman's face right in here. You see that? That is the positive space. However, the area that they did not occupy with any marks or anything, they just left plain paper, that is just as important because that space created the hands that are around her face. So, both positive and negative space are part of the drawing, are part of the artwork. They need each other both to exist as what they are. So space is really, when we're talking about drawing, the space is your drawing surface and how you choose to occupy your drawing surface. So for this side, this is the fun part because you can literally just draw whatever you want. This is like your world, your oyster. So feel free to have fun. Draw whatever you want. It doesn't even have to resemble anything. It can be complete abstract. It can be just design work. You can really fill your space. Or if you're one of those minimalist artists and you just want to do a little dot and that's it, that's your artwork, then I would prefer that you do a little bit more than that, but if that's your thing, go for it. So have fun and fill your space.